Oh,
Yay!
she's coming back?
She's coming back, but I think that's just a picture. That's not what
Yeah.
she was wearing.
Uh-huh,
Can
right.
you hear us, Ruthann?
Yes, I can
No,
hear you. I just had to unmute everything. I just disappeared. My internet is got weak, or a plane went overhead or whatever, but I guess you heard the end of my story.
No, just that. So did you go babysit or not?
No, I sent her a message right back and said I'm just not comfortable,
Yeah.
baby, during this time, seeing people that I don't know, and then the fact that they would be with people that I don't know,
Yeah.
so just too many possibilities for
Good.
transmission.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw on Washington Post today that Pompeo threw a huge party. Did you see that too?
I did.
He threw a huge party, Jim. I don't. Did you see it?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Well, he threw a huge party yesterday, or I'm not sure when, but for the dependents of the Secretary of the State Department who could not accompany their husbands, I assume, or wives to the countries, where they're deployed. Like military has that too, depending
Yeah.
on what you're doing.
Yeah.
And about 900 invitations went out, and only about 70 people RSVP'd that they'd attend, and not even all of them came. And in fact, Pompeo didn't even show up. He was going to talk.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
just so much BS going on
Yeah,
at
totally.
White House.
Yeah.
At least Trump said that. What are you doing? Oh, and then the neighbors are going to throw him out of Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, don't want him to come. Yeah,
That's
I
what
think,
Right.
I think that's terrific.
Yeah, that's
know,
not
I
supposed to be. That's not. They'll throw him out on a technicality.
Yeah,
Like he
yeah,
was trying to get all these ballots thrown out on technicality.
right. Yeah, speaking of technicalities,
Yeah. Right.
it's this thing you signed back in 1993.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, I have one first cousin who is he's 5 years younger than I am. My only other first cousin who's living, she's in her 90s. And anyway, my cousin Bob Moore, and he lives up in Arlington. And their two kids live in Arlington too. They're real homeboys, all of them. But anyway, Bob's wife Chrissy has been fighting Parkinson's the last 2 or 3 years now, I guess. And unfortunately, and she was starting to have some cognition problems. And we saw them in July when we were up in Northern Virginia with the kids over 4th of July. And that's the last time I've seen them. But recently she fell, and she had a hip replacement not long ago, and she broke her leg. Apparently it wasn't a complete fracture, but up near where this new hip replacement thing was in. But when they took her to the hospital, she tested positive for COVID.
Yeah.
And they had not been out, really. He has been out shopping and doing what he needs to do. But they think that they have been having therapists and different people coming in for her. And they think that possibly it came there. However, their daughter, who also lives in Arlington, her mother-in-law, who lives in Texas, insisted on flying in for Thanksgiving. She and her husband. And I'm like, holy God, you mean they're going to visit your daughter with their 3 little boys, actually, who live not far from them. And the boys, and that family comes over periodically. And Bob was like, yeah, he's like, what the hell, go traipsing through all these airports in Texas. What is wrong with them?
Yeah.
So,
Well, my granddaughter had COVID. She's she's in her early 20s and she's married. And she and her, this is the ones that they broke their lease and put their furniture and goods in storage and
Right,
traveled.
good.
And she came down to visit me, but on the way home, they went to some party with friends. And by the time they got home, they tested before they got back to her parents' house, my son Dan, where they were going to stay, and they were found tested positive. So they had to live in different sides of the house for a couple weeks and not, to make sure that they were okay. But it's just inching closer and closer to all of us,
Yeah.
and everybody's letting their vigil down because they say, well, I'm sick of this. I want to
Yeah.
get my hair done. I want to play golf. I want to do whatever. So,
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want to be like Trump and be guided just by our own guts and wishes on our inner life
Mhm.
and not do any reality testing.
Yeah.
Got to be able to feel what we feel, but also reality test and be aware of an outside world that is real.
Jim, you're slipping off to the right.
The pardon?
My poor cousin, my cousin's wife, after that fall, it
Yeah.
really affected her mentally. And he's saying she's pretty much bedridden now, and they have someone coming in, and then they have contacted what is it that in your final days, what is that called?
Hospice.
Yeah. It's called
Yeah.
hospice to come in, and I'm like, oh God, like,
Yeah,
and
that's the
he's
faithful.
younger. He's 5 years younger than me, and she's younger, a little younger than he. Back, I think it was in 2017 or 16. They went to Germany with us because Lee, our son, was living in a really big house that had lots of room for, on the first floor, there was a full bath and a separate bedroom. And then up on the third floor, there was it was a very large room that had a bed in it, it had a full bath, and then Nash's bedroom, and then a separate, an area where like another den kind of thing. So they could come and stay, and we could come and stay, and we went off and had a lot of fun together. And I was just so glad it was the fall, and the new wine was in, and all these different places where you could go and taste the wine, and there were wine fests going on. In fact, the wine road was very close to where Lee lives, and so we had a great time. But we were seeing symptoms, of something not quite right with Chrissy. Just like very, when you'd stand, instead of just normally just turning to see somebody, she would turn completely slowly. And so we were seeing some symptoms, and it's terrible. It's just awful to see someone going down like that, especially when they're younger than you. It's just
Yeah, that is shocking, really.
yeah. But anyway, he's my only cousin. He's more like a brother to me. We
Yeah.
were both only children. And when I was growing up, and he was growing up too, of course, his father was my mother's brother, one of her brothers. Well, the only one that had any children out of 4 brothers.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
Andy, did we go stay with them when
you did. Yes, you did.
when we went to Washington, D.C.?
Exactly. You did. And you stayed on a little bit longer after I had to go. Yeah.
I did? I didn't remember that.
I didn't either, but Bob mentioned it some time ago.
The house guest that didn't leave, is that it?
I don't remember. But you would remember their home, of
I
course.
remember their home, yeah.
Yeah. And of course,
I remember being there.
bedrooms were all upstairs. Yeah. Which was another funny thing. But anyway, so
Yeah, I wanted to say something about that too. I think we went there, they were in Washington, D.C., and we went there specifically so that I could go to the Vietnam Memorial and see my brother's name
yeah.
on the memorial. And so Andy was so kind to arranged all this for me. And we went there, and it was that day was a freezing cold day, and I had a cold, I think. I wasn't feeling well. So by the time we got down there, it was just didn't have the time that I wanted to just sit there and be quiet, you know. So it was a little bit.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, mixed.
Wait a minute. Darian's on the phone. She says, is there a
She
Zoom?
needs the old number. Give her
We
the
had
old
a
number.
hell of a time getting in.
Yeah.
Ourselves. There's just three of us, Jim McGloin and Ruth Ann and I. You have Zoom on your computer.
Okay, I'm going to mute Andy for a minute because we don't need to listen to the telephone call.
And she's going to give her the old number, probably, I hope. Yeah.
I hope so. You know, that number has not changed, and I hopefully will not change. In fact, I'm going to go back. I put in the chat. Do you see the chat? There's a button down at the bottom that you just a toggle switch at the bottom of your, just click on that and you'll see a message that I sent to you.
Let's see. Your face video is slipping to your right. Just straighten your tablet so you're centered.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think I've got the problem. I'm going to solve this problem of still everybody sees me looking to their left.
Yes.
Instead of right at them. And I'm looking right at you, but you're experiencing me as looking to your left.
Yes. You should be looking up there at your little camera, and then you're looking us in the.
Yeah, the problem is I realize where the camera is now. It's the opposite from where the home button is. But in order to do that, if I'm looking at it when on a horizontal, I can't see you. It looks like I'm looking at you, but I can't see you. So I just have to get in my settings and move it so I can move this thing up, upright. And then I can look right at the camera and be looking at you at the same time.
Well, see where I'm pointing I'm not. Where I'm pointing my finger, that's where my camera is.
Yeah.
So if I want to look you in the eye, I have to look at that. But if I want to see your response, I have to look at your face in the squares. So
I see. Yeah, I'm going to get mine fixed. I just have to figure out how to get my.
Well, it's not that necessary. I was just concerned that it was bothering your patient. You know, if they were concerned that you weren't looking at them, that kind of.
Yeah, they several have piped up lately and said, "How come you're not looking at me?" You know. So I'll get it figured out. By next time we talk, I'll have it figured out.
Well, look at the top of your screen.
Yeah.
Look up there.
Yeah.
You'll be looking at them while they're speaking. Of course, you can't see their response while they're speaking then. So that's important too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sending me those links to your discussion with your colleague. I really enjoyed listening to them, and I thought, wow, I'm right on the same page for so many of his suggestions. My mother was born in North Dakota, and of course that was in 1920. But she remembers her older brothers talking about the Indians that would pass by the Lakota, and my assumption is that they had been shoved off their land so that my grandparents could homestead, and that's why they saw so many Indians.
Yeah.
But, so the tragedy of one culture decimating another continues. It's really heartbreaking.
Yes.
Of course, maybe the COVID is going to cut us all down so we'll be to a manageable size and possibly can stop polluting the earth. I was so shocked right after the COVID became, a big deal, that how clean the air was in China because all the factories had shut down. And I thought, wow, what a difference we're making.
Exactly. Yeah, that gave us a glimpse of what it could be without our polluting. Yeah. Well, we're going to have to make a fresh start once we're on the other side of all of this.
I'm a little bit apprehensive that, too many systems have been disabled and broken down, and too many people have jobs they can't go back to, that really we're not going to be able to flip a switch and turn back, 5 or 6 years.
No, we're going to be digging out for a long time.
Yeah.
For those people who voted for Trump because they wanted a wrecking ball to be brought, remember when what's his name, the guy in Michigan, Michael Moore?
Yes.
Yeah, he had hypothesized that a lot of people voting for Trump were wanting to just put a wrecking ball to the way things were, or throw a, what did he call it? Throw a Molotov
cocktail
into the mess at the time. So anyway, they pretty much got their wish, with Trump for 4 years bringing a wrecking ball to
Well,
things.
hasn't Trump done everything Russia would have wanted him to do? I mean, if he were receiving instructions, which I don't think he was, I think he was just the personality type that was out to be, feel important and destroy things around him. What really breaks my heart is all the careers of the longtime public servants that were just dashed. I'm thinking at first with Sally Yates and then Preet Bharara, and just on and on and on. All these people with, excessive credentials and wonderful efforts. They were just, you're fired and they're gone. And what are they going to do? Well, hopefully, think tanks and people pick them up to give them a salary. But when the Vindmans were marched out of the White House, Colonel Vindman and his brother, that was just horrendous for me to see that happen.
Yeah, me too. That was terrible.
They're probably making a hell of a lot more money somewhere else.
That's true.
And especially it was upsetting for me to see that he left the army,
Yes.
But wasn't he a West Point graduate?
I don't think so.
I don't recall.
For some reason, I don't think so, because he and his brother, they immigrated from wherever when they were young boys.
It might have been Ukraine. It might have been Ukraine.
It was the Ukraine. Yeah,
it was Ukraine.
Yeah.
And that's why he was such an important person.
Yeah. Were they twins? I think.
They were.
Yeah.
They are twins.
Well, there's plenty of places up in Northern Virginia where they would find work, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
what about the guy, one of the guys, the FBI guy, wasn't he within just a week or two of getting his retirement?
Oh, yeah. That was just a vindictive, nasty thing.
Wasn't that McCabe or no? No?
I'm not sure. It could have been. Somebody right at the point. Yeah, terrible.
Yeah.
Well, why couldn't the military say, no, you can't do that?
What? Well, he resigned because.
No, I mean the FBI guy that was not allowed to complete 4 more days to receive his pension.
Well, he wasn't military. He was FBI. I mean, why can't the civil service do something about it? I'm thinking that he might have, but I don't recall. I mean, I'd have to Google who that was and look it up. But this drain the swamp mantra. The first time I ever saw that, we were up in Northern Virginia about the time of that election. And somebody, as we're driving on I-95 or whatever into the city or the Beltway, some people had draped a huge banner over one of the overpasses saying, drain the swamp. And that was the first time I ever saw that or heard that. And I was like, what the hell? What is that? What does that mean? Well, that meant anybody working for the federal government, like the people hanging that sign, like their livelihoods don't depend on people working for the government in Northern Virginia. I don't care if you own a pizza parlor or if you're if you or the manager from Macy's, for God's sake.
Yeah,
You're
You're
depending on that damn swamp,
that's for sure.
whether it's the new swamp coming
Yeah.
in or the
The
one in
worst
place
swamp.
now.
Yeah, the worst swamp. Yeah, and he said, I'm going to only have the best people around me.
Oh, God.
And he got all the people like himself and worse.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because our son David works for the Department of Education, and he's a pretty recent hire. I didn't even know that they were, but anyway, he met all the qualifications for this particular position. And I don't know that he hasn't announced who he's going to have for education, but our son Matt, the youngest, works for the Department of Transportation, and Pete Buttigieg is going to be his new boss.
Yeah,
So I think that's pretty cool. Instead of Mitch McConnell's wife,
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
That's who's head of it now. Yeah.
Wow. Terrible.
As if she's not rich enough, for God's sake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The old swamp had their fingers, their tentacles, all, I'm just so annoyed with the state of Kentucky for re-electing that jerk.
Oh my God.
Me too.
What has he done for those people?
Yeah, he's Machiavelli himself. I mean, and
he is
just totally about power, and the obstructionist writ large.
Right.
Terrible.
Right.
Beyond belief.
Do you think he's really that clever, or he's being nudged by others with the big money?
I think he's clever. I think he's got a kind of manipulative intelligence. He's certainly not wise or given to much reason. It's just a kind of a manipulative intelligence to obstruct and to get things on his terms.
He's got a lot of big money people, probably coal people, and I don't know who all else, because, Eastern Kentucky is coal country.
Well, a classmate of my brother Michael's in Panama, William Pollard, Bill Pollard, we connect on Facebook. He lives in Kentucky. He taught at the university. I think it was some weird name like Transylvania.
Yeah, there's the Transylvania.
Yeah, so he was still he just retired. He was a professor there, and so his feelings are quite similar to ours. And he lives in Kentucky, and is just so incensed. What McConnell does do is, before elections, he goes in and puts on big show of building roads and building community centers, and the year before the election, so that people go, oh, he's a pretty good guy, or maybe at least the uneducated do. And that's how he retains his power, because I think it's the lowest state for education, and for the highest state for people on public welfare. So, it just
got to be Mississippi. That's worse.
Well, it's way down there anyway.
Yeah.
But it's it's still how his constituency, believes in him. I have no idea. So.
And I think they have prevented Medicare expansion. For all of those people. I mean, this state did too, until
Wisconsin did too, under that ridiculous Walker we had as governor.
Oh yeah, and until this current governor here in Virginia, Northam, who is a physician himself. It wasn't until he came into office that Medicaid was expanded. And,
Wait, do you have a Democrat or a Republican?
Oh, he's a Democrat. He's a Democrat.
He's a Democrat, but what about the legislature?
They're all Democratic now.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
See, we've got a Republican legislature, and we've got a Democratic governor now, and we have a Supreme Court that has 4 conservatives compared to 3 liberals, and only this last thing only was defeated of Trump's because one of the conservatives voted with the liberals. So we had a 4-3 decision. Came that close to getting rid of 200,000 votes from
My
two
God.
counties where we live in Dane County and Milwaukee County, which have the most Democrats and the most people of color. And he wanted to throw all those out and leave all the
Sure.
other 70 counties untouched who were operating under the same rules, but who are more rural and Republican. So
Crazy.
that's how close it came to having all our votes thrown out in these two counties.
Outrageous.
And
tell you,
it was the thing about here. These rules that we were following have been in place for years, maybe 10 years or more, and everybody was following the rules. But after he lost, he wanted to challenge the rules that could have been challenged anytime before the election. But and he never cared about challenging anything as long as he won, and he did win here in 2016 with the same rules. Now he lost, so he wanted to fight the rules after he already lost. How childish is that?
I just say, thank God for those people in the U.S. Supreme Court.
Yeah, exactly.
Even the ones he put in.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
saw a cartoon somewhere that said, thanks for the seat, thanks for the roads, thanks for the robes. Now, nah. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy. And we have the and we were previously, where I live, in the first congressional district here in Virginia, and it got redistricted. And so what did I do? Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you fine.
I have an immersive, I don't know what the hell I did, but I can't see you.
You can't see us, but we can see you clearly.
We can hear you and see you, so it's all good.
All right, I'm going to click something here. I don't know. Can you still see me and hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm back. Anyway, and the guy's name is Whitman, and he's a Republican in this first congressional district. And we are actually in James City County, as opposed to the city of Williamsburg. But anyway, they redistricted, and we're in another congressional district, and we have a Democrat for our representation in Congress. Well, this jerk Whitman, he's one of those that signed on to this thing from Texas, that just got by the Supreme Court. He signed on to it, and you would not believe the letters to the editors in the newspaper and the editorial by the newspaper itself about, here we have first congressional district, and he's signing a paper to do away with our democratic processes. It's a fan. And of course, and unfortunately, he just got reelected. So, one of these letters is saying, I hope you remember in 2 years what this jerk did.
Exactly.
Well, apparently, Darien has not had any luck on getting in.
I'm surprised. And you gave her the old number, right?
Well, I gave her the correct number. Yeah.
812.
Right. Which took some time to do, when you're doing stuff over the phone with us old people is funny. Anyway, so has everybody got their whatever Christmas stuff they're going to do done?
Not a chance.
I'm not sending Christmas cards this year. I'm just going to write a letter and send it email. I just am not in the mood or whatever. But we have not put up a real Christmas tree. But I guess, Ruth Ann, you've seen it on Facebook. We put up, I had a Christmas, we have a Christmas tree in the original box, one of these small things that I sent to Ed when he was in Vietnam back in 1970.
Wow.
And we still have it. So we put it up in our back window, and it's got white lights on it. And then Ed put up a pole on the back of the deck, and then strung colored lights up so it's in the shape of a Christmas tree. So we had that in the back. And then on the front, we've got this fake, it's a fake wall, but it looks like a wall across the front of the house, as do all the houses in this circle of Yardley Graham. And we've got wreaths on that wall with white lights on those that we've done that for years. So
Great.
we're looking a little bit merry, even
Well,
though
that's great. We're not quite there yet because we've been going to Phoenix for the last 19 years and we haven't had a tree here, and we've trimmed the tree down there.
right.
So this year, our son and granddaughter are sending us a little tree. We haven't gotten it yet, but it's a 4-foot artificial tree, which we're
Probably
going
like the kind that we sent to Vietnam.
probably like that, right? So, but we had Peter and Casey on FaceTime, and we while they were trimming their tree.
Oh, there's Ed.
Is that Ed? Hey,
That's
hey,
Ed.
Ed, is that a really Ed?
No, that's the Vietnam one.
That's the
Oh,
Vietnam
yeah.
tree. I found Andy's Facebook photo.
Right.
You can see it.
It's
Oh,
got
great.
it's got a little angel on the top that's actually from Germany. One of those
I see.
ones.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's nice. That's great.
yeah. In our TV room.
Good. Yeah, we're going to put ours up in the dining room. When
Yeah.
it comes.
So anyway, but we
Oh,
just,
I
you
just
know,
went next door and helped my neighbors trim. Well, I didn't help them while I was there. I was putting on, they had those, expensive fragile ornaments, and they just got a little tree. And so it's just loaded with stuff. I took pictures of that too. So I'm considering that my Christmas tree. What I really love to have is the smell of pine in my house. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out if I should just wander around Christmas tree lots and steal branches that they've cut off.
we have a candle. We have a great candle.
That
But
smells like
make sure it doesn't have the cedar. We had a candle that was like balsam and cedar, and it was saying that's not quite right. That's not. So anyway, when he was out shopping, went to the commissary or the PX, he found one that was just the balsam pine. He's getting very picky at his old age. So
That's
anyway,
great.
we
And
like that at night.
balsam pine were the ones we had in Panama, weren't they?
I
The
think
tree
so.
that we got. Yeah. Great.
I just called him a Christmas tree. Who knew?
Right. They
Who
were
knew
all the
there
same.
were different kind of pine trees? I
Yeah,
didn't
right.
know.
That's all we knew.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I was thinking the other day about how where we grew up, and you, Ruth Ann, being in the military, where everybody had a job.
Yep.
We just didn't grow up with this upper 1%, not to mention the lower, or people who didn't have jobs or any of that.
Or people
No,
that
we had socialism, if you really think about it. It
Well,
was,
absolutely, we did.
yeah,
And the only poor people that we saw were black.
or
Yeah,
Indian, yes.
yeah.
And so that really kind of we grew up with kind of a warped view of what it would be like in the United States. And
Yeah.
I've already related to you all how in Knoxville, waiting for a bus, it dawned on me that these were poor white people standing around me waiting for the bus,
Yeah.
because they didn't smell very good,
Yeah. Right.
and
The
you look
unwashed.
around and you go, oh,
Yeah, the unwashed masses.
yeah. And it's interesting. I can't always remember the name of the place, but where Dolly Parton went to a one-room schoolhouse, actually within Smoky Mountain National Park. It's called Pittman Center. And when I was in education classes at UT, we went there as an example. They were showing us basically how the other half lives and all of that. And they preserved the schoolhouse, which had a pot-bellied stove in it, and an outhouse and all of that kind of thing. And I heard her mentioned on one of the shows that Pittman Center was her school, and she is from. They moved to a town called Sevierville, and which is very close to Knoxville, and I'm not sure what they have all kinds of entertainment kind of stuff at Sevierville. It's not where she has her Dollywood. That's further south. But anyway, I was remembering that we had an English teacher my freshman year, one of those classes everybody had to have. And it was a little woman with a cane who kind of limped. And she was talking, these wacko things that go off in your head when you think of things. And she was, of course, I knew nothing of the history of Tennessee either. But she was talking at one point, she said to us, she brought up the name Chucky Jack. Now, do you all know who Chucky Jack was? And I don't think anybody in that class knew who Chucky Jack was. And that was the nickname for John Sevier, Seveier, after whom Sevierville, where Dolly Parton lived, where that name came. He was one of the first settlers that came to that area, not unlike Daniel Boone going west and all that. So, the crazy things that you think of, when you're musing about.
I'm just reminded, I told you about my patient that had, former patient whose husband died recently of COVID, and she collapsed and was in the hospital. She went to the University of Tennessee, and one time her husband Richard and her name is Perry. They came with Peter and me down to a Notre Dame football game. And they stayed separately and so on from us, and they were sitting in a different part of the stadium. And it was a game where Notre Dame just was killing Tennessee in the first half. And then Tennessee got into it with a late touchdown in the first half. And our kicker, who was an All-American kicker, was injured, and he wasn't there for the second half. And my patient, Perry, was so devastated by how Tennessee was just annihilated in the first half that she couldn't recover. Even though Tennessee came back and they won the game by 1 point. And actually Notre Dame was on a 12-yard line for a little chip shot for the winning field goal. And we didn't have anybody with our kicker gone who could kick the ball. And we lost the game by 1 point. And I can just see the Tennessee players running across the field, leaping and joy. But my poor patient could not recover enough, even with the win. She was still stuck back in the first half where Tennessee was annihilated.
Wow.
So that was an example of, lack of resilience, that why she was in therapy in the first place. But anyway, that was that couple.
What was her diagnosis? I mean,
she had a rapid cycling bipolar disorder. And also she had she was a borderline. She had borderline features. I never diagnosed her with borderline. I don't like to diagnose anybody with that, but I said, you certainly have borderline features. And with acid, make suicide attempts and so on. She was quite a mess. And when I got her right out of the hospital, I said, I hope you never stoop so low to go back into the hospital again. She was a chemist, and she was a brilliant student at Tennessee and came to Wisconsin and got advanced degrees in chemistry. And she taught in the School of Pharmacy. And but she had lots of access to sodium cyanide, and I had to take enough sodium cyanide away from her that would have killed dozens of people. I would give it to a pharmacist to dispose of. And when she retired from the university, she was going to take the cyanide home. I said, no way, put it in a safety deposit box at the bank so you can only access it in the daytime and have to go through at least one other person. And I saw on the discharge papers that she did admit to them she had the cyanide in the safety deposit box still at the bank. And they said that they put it on there that she had made a suicide attempt once with lithium. but that was a lethal overdose of lithium she took, but it was not really a suicide attempt. It was a temper tantrum against me, and she wanted to make me look bad. So she took this lethal overdose of lithium and almost died.
Darian's calling again. You better put me on mute.
Okay.
Hey,
So anyway, it was representing in the
we haven't seen you.
the
So I
discharge
assume-
papers as a suicide attempt by lithium, but it was not whatsoever. And she said herself later, what a borderline thing to do. It never occurred to me I could die from doing this. I was just focused on making you look bad.
Oh my gosh, she even admitted that.
Yeah. When she wasn't hypomanic, she had wonderful insight. She was psychologically minded and she was a delight to work with. But when she went into hypomania, no insight whatsoever, and she would do things that embarrassed her terribly when she was back to her baseline. She was a very careful person. She wouldn't drive on the belt line here. It was too scary. But when she was hypomanic, she would race out to the belt line, race across town, go down to the Macy's or the Gimbal store and buy hundreds of dollars worth of cosmetics. Totally different person.
How frequent was her cycling? Was it daily or?
Was rapid cycling. So within, months, she could go, within sometimes weeks.
Guys, excuse me, they're asking Darian for password and not passcode.
Yeah, that's hard.
Still use CHS 1960, whatever they're asking for.
Yeah,
And it's telling her it has to have 8 characters. So this is not the passcode.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's the last 4 numbers that we keep talking about.
Oh, maybe it's
well then.
Well, wait.
But,
it wants
no, it's
8
the last
characters.
Well, it's the 8 last numbers in the link.
Okay.
That's the
Put in
ID.
Put in Darian. You know the numbers that I had you write down.
Pick the last 8.
No.
Starting
Forget
with
that
6.
one. Forget that. That's what they call a passcode. Okay, so forget that at this point, and put in the last numbers of that HTTP of that, all of that, but just the last numbers at the end.
642.
The one that starts with
6.
The one that starts with 642.
Yeah.
Put those numbers in.
Skip the 812.
Put in the 812 numbers that I gave you.
812642733313.
She has those. That's what she wrote down. So put those numbers in, just the numbers, okay? The 81264273313. Okay?
That's for the ID.
And see what happens.
Okay, I'm putting that in again. In the chat. It's in the chat.
She's entering now. All right, you're putting that in the password thing? Okay, so enter that. God, it's torture, isn't it? No, just put those numbers in. Forget that. I don't know.
Just read them again in the chat.
And see what happens. Oh, she had it written down because it's frustrating as hell.
Well, see, I never tried to write down numbers. I'm actually dyslexic with numbers. It's called dyscalculia. And
Okay, so
I always copy them and paste them to make sure I transpose a number.
Enter
didn't work.
Did you notice, I mean, every time somebody dies in our class, Carlos Fernandez always has some kind words to
Yes,
say.
wasn't that amazing to hear from him? I thought it was so
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, he does that. I look back on it, and every time somebody dies, he has something to say. And going way back, but when I was commenting at the beginning of Trump's tenure with my friend Dennis Merritt, telling him that about my Panamanian friends who are kind of blasé about Trump getting elected, that was really basically talking about Carlos Fernandez, because I had that discussion with him, and he just kind of poo-pooed the worry. He's just another, caudillo in effect. We've seen tons of them, and the U.S. will survive, and so on. So anyway, that's why I was saying to Dennis, my Panamanian friends are, they don't think much of it. It's no big deal. So.
Well, sadly, I've had several deaths reported to me in the last week. Other people I know, one was a marathon runner, and I think once COVID hit, and he was very much a people person, and he never did the Zoom with the rest of us. So I think the isolation maybe led him to take chances, or I don't know really what happened, but he passed away. And then another old friend, and this is why I think the isolation is what is going to kill people, and the COVID is the byproduct.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
there was something else I wanted to talk about. Well, Andy's, it was the Georgia elections.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame football. You've got to tell us about Notre Dame football. You must have been sort of excited about that.
Well, that's very exciting, and they've got their second game now with Clemson this coming Saturday at 3:00 in the afternoon our time, and it's on at the same time as the Badgers are playing Minnesota. So I'll tape the Badger game and watch the Notre Dame Clemson game. And now Clemson won't have any excuses. They didn't have their top quarterback. They had a freshman who hadn't played before, but who's a real superstar, who's going to be just great. But anyway, Notre Dame was disappointed they didn't have Trevor Lawrence at the quarterback position. And this time they will have him. So should be quite a barn burner. I expect it to be very exciting.
That's when you'll be wearing your all your Notre Dame gear, right?
Right. I'll even have my green socks on, probably.
Years ago, like 30 years, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, I dated a guy that was from Notre Dame, and Notre Dame was absolutely everything to him. And he just, every game, every piece of information, he was just all involved in it. And I admired that. Another guy I dated, he went to the University of Michigan. And actually, I married that one.
Pardon? You what?
I married that one.
Oh, you did? Well, actually, all of those places, Michigan actually, and is a lot like Notre Dame in terms of the devotion of their alumni and the kind of place it is, the environment, the intensity and everything. And when I took my daughter to Notre Dame her senior year, it was for the Michigan game. And she got a really good tour and a good feel for Notre Dame. And she loved Michigan. That was her second choice for college. But she said to me, after being at Notre Dame, she said, "Find me a school like this that's not Catholic." And the answer was Princeton, because Notre Dame had been trying to be the Catholic Princeton since 1950.
Oh, wow.
And they have many, many things in common with Princeton and striving for the excellence and so on. But it's a very similar type of situation where you have the undergraduate section school is bigger than the graduate school. They have both of them have small graduate schools and a larger undergrad, and the focus is on teaching, and it has that kind of intensity of excitement and learning and all of that. So she went to Princeton and had a great 4 years there. So.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, that's my another regret. My husband Dan went to Santa Clara in California, and he'd also gone to very good Catholic high school. His dad was sure that his sons got good educations, and yet my husband, handicapped by his drinking, was not involved with his kids like his dad was, and made no effort to help them choose or select colleges. So they ended up going to the state college, which is not bad. I mean, my son and I both graduated from the same California State University, just a couple years apart. And but my regret is that our children did not have the advantage that he had with. And I think that the thing about the Catholic education is that it's such early discipline and intensified effort on education and study.
Yeah.
And that's the best benefit.
Well, when I got to Notre Dame and I was a physics major, I was the only physics major that didn't have calculus in high school. And I was really behind the rest of the student body. And it took me until about my junior year, I was surpassing a lot of those kids. And I came out, a dean's list the last 2 years, every semester, and did very well and got a really good education. But I was quite behind the 8 ball when I got there. And I was surrounded by kids from more affluent backgrounds and better educations and so on that I had, even though we made much of our own high school and all the teachers had master's degrees and it was a federal high school, basically. And yet we were behind in terms of these Catholic schools that you're talking about.
And speak of being behind, when I came from Panama to North Texas State, where my uncle was, where my uncle said that my uncle was a math instructor. They made me take what we call dumbbell English because they assumed because I was coming from out of the country that I couldn't speak English, or I would have trouble with English. So I said, but I don't need to take dumbbell English. I was in Mrs. Smith's class after all.
Right. Right.
But I had to take it anyway. And I was really, annoyed with having to go back to diagramming sentences and do all this kind of silly stuff.
She can she?
Unmute yourself.
Unmute
yourself.
We can't hear you.
I know. I was clicking that. It was unmuting, and then you would mute me again. What it was doing.
No, we only muted you while you were on the phone. Anyway, that was my experience with being an out-of-country student.
At Notre Dame, they treated me like a foreign student, and I would often play along with it and speak Bayesian and things like that. Have a lot of fun with it. Yeah.
I love to hear people speak Bayesian. It just is like a melody in my ears.
Yeah, me too.
And very, very often I ask them where they're from if I hear that. And more often they're from West Africa.
Exactly. They've got the same accent, West Africa. And one professor I met from West Africa, and very sophisticated, brilliant woman, and had the same accent that our maids had back in Panama.
I know.
But I had an immediate warm feeling for her,
Right. Right. And then I get antsy.
Well, see, that's my curiosity. I know these things are supposed to work, and I just keep punching buttons until I figure out what they are.
Yeah. Well, then you forget what the damn buttons were that you punched.
Well, no, like share screen, like that. I already put something. Oh, that was us. Oh, I guess I closed that.
Yeah,
anyway,
see?
I can even put my sticky notes up here.
Oh yeah.
See, there's my sticky note where I keep all my information, and that's just a feature that I thought came with most systems. But right down right here, I've got all this, and then I can just
I've never
That's-
heard of sticky note.
Yeah, that's the right one there.
And then the reason why you guys haven't had any videos lately is because I bought this new software so it would be easier to convert because Microsoft no longer supports MP4 movies. So, and I can't.
Oh, yeah, I knew that. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that either. Nobody did. So I got this other software to convert it and make it easy and put the date at the beginning and maybe a picture of the canal seal at the end, and it's more complicated than I know. So it's like, I just want something simple, but I know it's in there somewhere. So I go in and I try again and I try again. So this is why I don't get bored.
Yeah. Well,
Because like some people knit and I sit there and poke around at stuff on the laptop.
Well, we just saw on one of our credit card bills, a bill for McAfee and Avast and something else and an iMemories that we were being charged on a credit card that we through USAA, but that we weren't even using anymore. We didn't even have anymore. So I had just called, fortunately they had a phone number. And so I called them. And for a number of years, I've been paying iMemories, which converted, your VCRs stuff to digitize it, plus old films to digitize. But I've been paying $6 a month for them to just keep it in the cloud.
Right.
And I've forgotten what the hell I was doing.
Well, I've done the same thing myself. Because I usually pay through PayPal, which is kindly lists everything, and then you can just stop payment from there, or you can, and also Google. But I just went through Google and looked at everything that manage my payments or something, and I found things that I wasn't using. And just canceled them. I was paying for CNN and Disney, like it's $6.99 a month. Well, my grandson hasn't come here, and I've seen I watched Hamilton, so I don't want to see any more Disney, so I stopped that. And then CNN, I wanted to watch Gonzaga University basketball, but they're not going to play because they were COVID restricted for a couple weeks. So, but they're going to play on the 21st. So, those things sneak up on you. You get all these little trailer things that'll always go when you order something, there's an opportunity. Do you want to
upgrade?
No, not upgrade. Do you want automatic payments? And you always say no. Yeah. If you want to be paid again, you got to talk to me. So.
Yeah, and they were also, I was being charged by Avast and McAfee. Well, I don't need both of those.
Right.
Turns out. So I called and canceled. Well, I kept Avast, and the charge is even less than it was, that I've been charged. So, and it was an automatic thing, but I said, to charge me. So anyway.
Well, it's the same way
that was being downloaded. That was part of my problem today because Avast was still being downloaded. And don't you want to do this and run this now? And no, I don't want to do that right now. So anyway.
I'm going to have to do that too. I realize I have a $32 a month charge for getting my car washed. I haven't had my car washed since COVID.
A $32 a month thing?
Yeah, I've been still paying it $32 a month, just to have my car washed, whether I wash it or not, so I should go and get rid of that as well. So.
Well, I'll tell you, Jim, one of my, when we lived at Syracuse, New York, which is probably about the same latitude as Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I discovered how long the melt takes in spring.
Yeah.
And how filthy your car is. Oh my God. And
right.
we came, Lee and I came down for to spend Easter in Norfolk with my mom. And the first thing that hit me was how clean the cars were. Oh my God.
Yeah. And can you
So,
believe it? If you look in the Southwest, like Arizona, they have no rust on their cars whatsoever.
well,
Yeah.
that's the big thing. It's the salt that
Yeah,
gets
yeah,
under
yeah,
your car that
yeah,
just heats it up. So of
yeah,
course it behooves you to use that $32 every month to at least wash off underneath your car for sure.
yeah, yeah,
You
exactly.
know, things you never thought of living
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
tropics or living in the South. Yeah,
yeah.
filthy mud. Oh my God. Have you ever experienced that, Ruth Ann, visiting Minnesota or whatever?
Oh, yeah. My mother was ill in the hospital, so um, I flew to Rochester, and
Yeah.
my aunt picked me up. And the first thing she did at the airport, she said, "Move over, you're driving." And of course, it was snowing and and blizzardy and everything. So I learned to drive real quick in the snow right then. But I remember coming down a hill. I mean, I was zigzagging, sliding sideways towards the
Yeah.
light, hoping I would stop before this traffic got there. And obviously they're used to people that don't know what they're doing. So I guess the cars were careful, but
Everybody has to relearn the first few
yes.
couple of weeks of winter. But you know what prepared us for driving in the snow was driving in the rainy season in Panama and driving in the mud. And that just converted very easily to driving in the snow. It's the
When were
Where
you
did
same
you?
driving in the mud?
I know.
uh,
That's what I want to know.
all over Panama. I mean, drive out to Fort San Lorenzo or anywhere else.
Oh, well, yeah.
All the back roads were just mud, and you slid all over the place.
Okay.
And
Well,
I
we
didn't stay on
obviously
pavement.
we were not driving in the mud, Ruth Ann.
I
You
don't
stayed on
remember that.
pavement. I didn't remain on the pavement very long, but some of the places I like to go. So.
Yeah.
I wish I'd gone so many more places in Panama. We went to the usual places, when I was there, living there as a kid, but there's so many more things I would like to see.
Yeah, me too.
I
I
never
was more
saw
limited.
Madden Dam.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was limited by my parents didn't travel through Panama into the interior and all the places I wanted to go. So we had that fifth grade trip up to El Valle that we really enjoyed, fifth graders, and
Went to El Valle or the Volcan? I
uh,
thought Frank McLeod said he went to the Volcan, but
maybe we also got to El Volcan, but I think it was El Valle was basically where we were, and we hiked down to see the golden frogs and the square trees
oh
and all.
yeah, that was El
And
Valle.
I think it was a AAA place that we stayed in. We had our hammocks up, and it was a wonderful trip. And I think that's the same trip Frank McLeod is talking about. But Santa Clara we would go to, and but that's about the limits. I wanted to go to Boquete and all the places far flung.
Yes.
Well, the roads were terrible.
Yeah.
Ed and I did it in 1965, and no, 66. Not that that made any difference, but from I don't know how close to David it was, but
Mhm.
there was part going into um, Costa Rica. I mean, it was gravel, and then from Costa Rica into I don't know what town. It was terrible, and we went up over a mountain, and I've got all of this on slides. And I mean, Ed had put a big sheet of plywood under the gas tank because the advice from Southern Command was protect your gas tank. And he'd rigged this piece of plywood, and somewhere along that line, we lost the plywood.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on.
Whose phone is that?
That's mine, the
Oh,
house phone. Hello? Oh, God. And then Ed picks it up and I don't know what. So Ed's here. So I'll let him pick it up from now on.
Good.
That's-
Good.
He went to work out at the sports club here.
Oh, you're lucky. Mine is closed down. It has been since March. So.
Well, they have special, they only let a certain number of people in and they're always wiping down the stuff.
Yeah.
And this is just here in Kingsmill. So it's not like it's a big, athletic facility for, it's rather small.
Yeah, ours could have done it, but it's the Sports Medicine and Fitness Center for the university, and
Oh, okay.
but it's very, it's a big place, and it's not that crowded. I was just going to go and use the gym and get in and out without using the locker room or the showers or anything.
Oh, yeah, he has not been doing that either.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to use a pool someplace. That's
Yeah.
what I miss, is being in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's hard.
That seems like it would be safe to be in the water. I mean, you're not that close to anybody, and even if you're swimming in lanes or something. But
Well, up until I fell, I was going to a water aerobics class, which was outside. But I'm not going now because I'm using this walker. And anyway,
how is your strength, Andy, in your leg?
it's doing okay. I've started going to physical fitness, but if you want to do except there is a charge later on, there's stuff online that you can exercise in a chair.
Yeah.
Air yoga on YouTube is wonderful.
Okay.
What kind of yoga?
You just do a search on YouTube for chair yoga and you'll get several choices. And that means you're not, if you're unstable on your feet, which I sometimes am, and because I live alone, I don't want to be knocking my head on a coffee table or something.
Here's my little buddy, Kate.
There she is.
Great.
But she does not like to sit in the
Uh-huh.
chair. And I don't want her scorching my thighs with her claws. So I'll put her down. But she was in here to my, on my arm going, pet me, pet me. Now she has her nose out of joint and she's leaving.
My cat's hiding someplace. Usually if I sit down and talk to somebody on Zoom, he wants to sit right on my lap and pay attention. So people pay more attention to my cat than they do to me.
Yeah, Callie is not a lap cat. It's fun watching, on PBS News, everybody's talking from their home and they've got a cat in the background or a dog comes wandering through. I think it's always fun to watch. So do you have snow up there now, Jim?
Yes, we do. Everything, it's all covered. Heavy snow everywhere. Yeah.
Well, we've got a ton of rain here. I was talking to Darian about it. Didn't seem like she had snow now, and she's in New Hampshire. She said there were bluebirds outside, and I said that's crazy, but they're going to get it's raining, it's pouring out here now, and Northern Virginia they've got snow, so much so that they closed down even virtual school. And there was an editorial about even though you got virtual school going on and it's snowing, give the kids a snow day to try to make something normal,
Exactly. Yeah. No, they can't get a snow day now.
Right.
They're all home anyway. And
let them go out and play in the snow and have hot cocoa and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Well, don't you feel that people that live in snow country just sort of have a different attitude during winter? They know they're going to be home a lot, so they develop hobbies or take care of things that they wouldn't be doing in the summer and spring.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, you see it, like, for example, you go up to Door County here, and all the inns and places to stay have tons of puzzles for people to do the puzzles.
Yeah, we have puzzles on the Outer Banks, for renters, or we did until we had to clear all that stuff out because of COVID. But people came. The Outer Banks had, it was one of their busiest seasons. It was crazy.
Wow.
People just wanted to get the hell out of the house and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was funny. So, but
Well, you guys.
if I have to stay in the house, let it rain. That's all I can say.
Right. Right. What was that, Ruth, you were saying?
Oh, I was going to say we're getting close to the time to go.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was going to show this one more thing. The COVID
Oh yeah.
that you can see.
Yeah. Where did you find that? Is that on the Johns Hopkins website?
No, this is actually, I think it's New York Times. They have a whole page that is free. You don't have to be a subscriber, but
Yeah.
it's free that you can look at this every day. And then of course it goes down and gives more detailed information too.
Yeah, that's great.
So anyway, this is very, very much on my mind. And
then Trump doesn't even mention it. I mean, he's out playing golf.
Who cares about him anymore is what I think.
Let's just ease him out as quietly as possible and never to be heard from again. That's my hope.
I think
if we could control the damn media, but they keep bringing up, that's the problem.
Yeah. Well, they want to show what a madman he is, that he's totally on his own now, out there screaming here that he won the election.
All the free publicity that he got when he was running back in because everybody was like, can you believe this guy is running for president?
Nobody could ever
exactly
this damage that would be in the Oval Office. Unbelievable. The worst we've ever had.
And I still can't believe the Canal Zone people that are still, when you look on, it's just as well, Jim, that you don't go to Facebook, because all these damn arguments get going between people that we know, and I'm over putting my 2 cents in. I think they're nuts.
Yeah.
But they're nuts.
Yeah, you can't reason with them at all.
No, they're beyond.
I even had it with one of my roommates from Notre Dame who lives in Ohio. He's a country boy from Ohio. And oh my God, you should have seen the thing. I sent him a copy of my interview. And then he sent me this long thing like this. It's just full of stuff that's beyond belief. And the guy is
going to read it,
The guy is extremely learned. I mean, he reads. He's our age. But my God, does he have it wrong? And he says, after he gave me this whole thing, I said, I hope we're still friends. And I said, well, my favorite definition of a friend is someone who knows you're wrong and likes you anyway.
Yeah.
So, but we did have some common ground, because he said, really, one thing that he said that I believe is that we're all one species, the human species. We're one race, the human race. And and so all this business about differences, I mean, the races and so on, that's all baloney, which I can agree with that. But then he began, I think he wanted to quote Tolstoy, who said, if you don't believe in God, you'll believe anything. But he attributed it to G.K. Chesterton, that he says, if you don't believe in God, you can believe anything, which is ridiculous as well. So.
Yeah, just like, this past Saturday, they had what do they call them? The something boys.
The Proud Boys.
Yeah. The Proud Boys.
Yeah. Tearing down banners, from these African American churches in Washington, D.C. I mean, they're just a bunch of racists, that he has empowered.
Yeah.
And of course,
exactly.
none of them will, talk about how terrible this is, what they were doing to these churches. It's only if it's, the other side, if they do damage or whatever, then that's terrible, but not what we do. But this whole thing with guns and crap. Yeah. And they showed a picture somewhere that said the guy, this obese guy having on a t-shirt that says Christian, Republican, that he was not gay, heterosexual, gun loving, all of this stuff. And I said to Ed, he forgot to add obese up at the, I
Right.
mean, and he's got these damn
Prime
tattoos. And
target for COVID. Yeah.
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 That's my only hope, is that they all catch it.
Well, there
Okay.
you go, guys.
Gotta say goodbye. What have we got here?
Okay, y'all.
Oh yeah, look at that.
The
What does
one
it say?
got a few holdouts, but the stadium's getting empty. So,
Yeah. Thank God.
Yeah.
Okay.
so I am
Okay,
breathing
great.
easier. I am
Great to
much
see you both.
happier.
Okay, are we on next week too?
I hope so, and I hope it's not as traumatizing to everybody as it was this time. So
Okay.
Oh, I want to ask, is that a shawl or a sweater you're wearing, Ruth
it's
Ann?
a shawl.
Very pretty.
I bought it
that.
at a museum right around Christmas time years and years ago. This is my travel blanket. I take it with me on every airplane ride I go on because it'll fit across my body. It's warmer than a coat, really. So,
I
and
love
can you
Yeah.
believe I'm the one in California who's cold?
I love
Okay.
museum stores. Okay, y'all.
Okay, wonderful to see you.
Have
Take
a
good
good
care.
week. All
Take
right.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.